Croquet by Alice Guerin Crist, 1876 to 1941. In a garden where the May made the straggling fences gay, and the roses cream and scarlet shed their petals on the breeze, your maiden aunts and I and you, demure and shy, played a sober game of croquet underneath the spreading trees. Just beyond the garden wall we could hear the merry call of the tennis players yonder, flitting gaily in the sun. But we recked not of their glee, for all too content were we, and we weren't flushed and heated when our quiet game was done. What a picture sweet you made as you rested in the shade, listening to my eager chatter with a glance of grave surprise. Was it nectar, love, or tea that your white hands poured for me in the dainty Wedgewood teacups that were bluer than your eyes? Love I know not. This I know, that we parted years ago, that our paths lie far asunder in the giddy whirl of life, and the tender vows we made underneath the spreading shade are a memory half forgotten mid the city's toil and strife. But when wearied by its din, by its ceaseless strife and sin, my thoughts will wander backwards at the close of some long day. Once again I see you stand, with your mallet in your hand, twixt a nodding scarlet rosebush and a hedge of snowy May. And the scent of mignonette comes to haunt and thrill me yet, while your blue eyes light the distance with a half-reproachful smile. Love, it is the world sad way, just to worship for a day, and I doubt if you remember after all this weary while. Okay, this is a poem by Alice Guerin Crist, and it's about a game of croquet, but it's about falling in love with someone. Let's see, she plays a game of croquet with the aunts of a young man, and she falls terribly in love with this young man, and I think this young man falls terribly in love with her. And she's remembering this from a long time ago, and she says this is a moment in her life that comes back to her again and again. And she says, I'm sure you don't remember this, but there was this day that we played croquet together and I fell in love with you. And I'm not sure if the relationship went any further than that. They played croquet, and afterwards they had tea together, and they chatted, and she fell head over heels with him. Or maybe the relationship did go further, but it wasn't a relationship that lasted. It wasn't something that could last. So, croquet. It's about the results of playing a game of croquet. Alice Guerin Crist was an Australian. She was actually born in Ireland, but when she was 2 years old, her family moved to Queensland, and her father was a teacher in outback schools in Queensland. So, in a garden where the May made the straggling fences gay. I think the May talks about the hawthorn bush, and the hawthorn bush has lovely creamy white flowers. And the flowers, this tree is flowering and making the fences look lovely. And the roses cream and scarlet shed their petals on the breeze. And there are red and cream roses, and the petals are falling off when the wind blows. Your maiden aunts and I. So a maiden aunt is an unmarried aunt, somebody who was never married. So your maiden aunts and I, and you, demure and shy, very quiet and very timid, played a sober game of croquet underneath the spreading trees. So you need 4 people to play croquet. 2 maiden aunts, you could have more than 4, and I and you were very proper and very shy, very timid. So he was a timid young lad that she was in love with. And we had a very proper, prim and proper game of croquet underneath the trees. Just beyond the garden wall, we could hear the merry call of the tennis players yonder flitting gaily in the sun. So beyond the wall of the garden, we could hear people playing tennis over there, and they were flitting, jumping backwards and forwards happily in the sun. But we recked not of their glee, recked. We didn't pay any attention to their happiness, for all too content were we, because we were very happy ourselves, and we weren't flushed and heated when our quiet game was done. So the tennis players, after playing tennis in the sun, they're going to be heated, they're going to be red flushed, they're going to be sweating. But after a quiet, demure game of croquet, they're not going to be so hot. What a picture sweet you made. You were a beautiful, sweet picture, as you rested in the shade. So you're resting in the shade, listening to my eager chatter with a glance of grave surprise. So you were listening to me chattering to you with a glance, with a look of serious surprise. So you were surprised that I talked to you. But that's because she's in love with him. Was it nectar, love, or tea that your white hands poured for me? So they're drinking tea together, but she's wondering what was in the tea. In the tea, was it nectar, the sweetness of flowers, nectar, or was it love, or was it tea that you poured for me in the dainty Wedgewood teacups that were bluer than your eyes? So Wedgewood is a type of porcelain or ceramic, yeah, and these Wedgewood teacups were bluer than your eyes. So this boy has lovely, beautiful blue eyes. Love I know not, this I know, that we parted years ago. So I don't know if we were in love, I don't know if this was real love, but I do know that we parted, we separated many, many years ago. That our paths lie far asunder in the giddy whirl of life. So the whirl of life that makes you feel dizzy, the life moving round, sent them on different paths. And the tender vows we made underneath the spreading shade are a memory half forgotten mid the city's toil and strife. So they made tender, sweet promises to each other. So clearly he was in love with her and she was in love with him. And they were saying tender and sweet things to each other in the shade. But now she's looking back. And these are something that are half forgotten, a life ago, in the middle of the work and the toil and the argument and the problems of the city. But when wearied by its din, by its ceaseless strife and sin, so when the city is tired of making all this noise, when it's tired of non-stop argument and bad things, my thoughts will wander backwards at the close of some long day. So here, by calling the city sinful, I think she's referring to the purity and the beauty of this young man and her love for this young man. My thoughts go back at the end of some long day. Once again I see you stand with your mallet in your hand. So she's imagining him standing there with his croquet mallet. A mallet is like the hammer that you play croquet with. Twixt, between a nodding scarlet red rosebush and a hedge of snowy hawthorn. So she has this image of the red and white, and he's standing there with his mallet. And the scent of mignonette comes to haunt and thrill me yet. And she remembers the smell. She's identifying with the smell of that moment, and it smells of mignonette, another plant. While your blue eyes light the distance with a half reproachful smile. So your eyes are lighting the whole scene, and they are smiling, your eyes, but maybe they're reproaching me. Maybe they're a little bit angry. Maybe they're saying, you did bad because we should have been together. We should have lived our lives together. So this is a half reproachful smile. His look is perhaps saying, no, you didn't do the right thing. Love, it is the world's sad way just to worship for a day. So now she's saying, love, it's the sad way of the world. Love is something that maybe she just worshipped him for a day. She was in love with him just for that day. And I doubt if you remember after all this weary while. So she's saying it was just a day, or it was just a very short love affair. And this is the way of the world. It's sad, but love is something that doesn't last. So enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Bye for now. Croquet by Guerin Crist.